Hello, welcome to Series 1, Module 5. This is the most exciting module for me in this series right now because I think this is what created the fundamental shift for me when I first started to learn about what money is and how to make it work, and at the same time, how to overcome and rewrite, as I mentioned before, that old money script that's been given to us, that's been so deep rooted in us from our upbringing. And that script could be passed down to us, usually most directly from our parents, from our grandparents, our close relatives that we spend the most time with. And as we grow up, go to school, get into the workforce, could be coworkers, bosses, media, social media, teachers, friends, all these kind of people. And what that really means is that we gotta learn how to shake it off and rewrite, reprogram. Or a better way to look at this, as I mentioned before, it's basically learning how to update our operating system when it comes to money. I mean, right now it's 2025. I doubt that if you had an iPhone 4 or even iPhone 8, it's gonna work very effectively. So that's exactly what I want to accomplish with this module with you, is to start showing you how to think and operate, and more importantly, over time, to become like the wealthy. So here we go. First thing first, as I always say, is that bookmark this or go into a search bar. You can pause this right now, go into your other tab and pull up YouTube, go and search for the Trust Your Talent Academy channel and go down the playlist. So you can click on the word playlist. It's going to pull up a few different series that we've done. And during COVID lockdown times, I actually created a series called My Daily Dose with Tim. And what you want to look for is season 1, episode 21, because I did do some graphic illustrations to help you understand this concept better. I want to remind you that the quality of the video may not be as good simply because those videos were created on my computer directly as a Facebook Live. So it's been downloaded, reposted. The point is, it's not about the video quality, it's about the content and the illustration that could help you understand better. And so I know that sometimes it sounds really harsh. Like I said, first thing first, I always say that if it sounds harsh, that's probably because it's hitting a nerve, and that's probably because there is some truth. So take it with a grain of salt right now in terms of what you're learning here, because I know I had to. I had to always check my ego because I knew that what I was doing was not a sustainable long-term solution for me when it comes to how to make money and how to make more money. And so with that said, I want to make sure that you understand. First thing first, let's cover the poor mindset. I used to write down on the whiteboard or flip charts where it says poor. And I'm not talking about the poor because that sounds weird and sounds kind of harsh. At the same time, it's about mindset. And this is what I've covered with everybody in my welcome video. This is what truly sets the Trust Your Talent Academy community and trainings apart, is how much we focus on helping you rewire, rewrite completely your money script. And because a lot of us, and this is really my upbringing, being lower middle class, I wouldn't say we're completely poor. However, the way my parents approached money was pretty close to this, is the fact that when they had their paychecks, when they made money, it basically, most of it goes into expenses after the taxes are deducted. And so even though they did save a little bit, by the way, savings on a financial statement is qualified as expenses first until it goes into your asset column. So if we're just strictly looking at your income and expense, even savings is an expense. So what that means is every single penny that you make potentially all go into expenses. And for some of you, especially if you have families, you have children maybe, you have elderly parents that you have to take care of, and there always seems to be surprise expenses. Doesn't matter how diligent we budget and honor our budgets. And so that's really why a lot of the people that operate this way, they stay stuck for a very long time, if not forever. And so what that means, once again, is that money comes in from your JOBs or T4 incomes, and they go directly out to cover all of your living expenses. And in this particular case, it's your basic expenses, and likely, probably plus your lifestyle choices. So your lifestyle choices all have dollar signs attached to them. And so what that means is it makes it very difficult to the point of almost impossible to build assets. However, the plus side of that is that there might be no liabilities either. So it's not a horrible thing to be in, to be completely frank about this. And so the next one here is we have the middle class as the next group, and the middle class mindset. The middle class is created by having middle class mindset. Once again, being very clear about it. So in addition to just expenses, the middle class is known to take on liabilities. And so that's actually not a horrible thing. It's just that they don't understand the concept of asset versus liability for the most part. And so right now, money comes in from their JOBs if they pay life or lifestyle expenses and also go into liabilities because part of that lifestyle that they've created is their own house, their own vehicles, or there is an image that they gotta uphold, or whatever it may be. So it adds to mortgages, loans, and maybe even credit card debts. And so, with that said, the biggest mistake that the middle class tends to make is the fact that they mistake liabilities for assets, most notably houses and cars. And so, if you look at even just these two different mindsets, you can see right off the bat, would you rather have income strictly just covering expenses, or would you want your income to cover expenses and liabilities? I mean, strictly from the length of the sentences perspective, you want a little bit less expenses, don't you? And this is why the middle class stay stuck for probably the longest and forever and for generations. And so that's probably the worst thing about this mindset is that they get stuck, not just their entire lifetime, but that mindset gets passed down. And so for most of us, if not all of us watching this, if you're like me back then, I wanted to break the cycle. I so desperately wanted to break the cycle for myself just because I refused to continue on the same way my circle did, including my own parents. And so I knew something had to change, and I wanted to develop a different mindset, different perspective, and different approach when it comes to the subject of money, the making of the money, and the investing of money. And so the rich mindset really taught me something completely different. And if you do decide to watch my Daily Dose with Tim, you're going to see a very cool flow in terms of how that mindset plays out. It's the fact that we all start out with getting jobs, making money, trading hours for dollars. It's just that the biggest difference is that whenever we make money, we don't go for instant gratifications, what other people think about us, what we wear, what we drive, where we live. Those things don't matter yet. I get it. It's probably going to matter. Like I said earlier, I did admit that I did have a bit of a chip on my shoulders coming from a less privileged background growing up. And so I just realized that I needed to hold off on instant gratifications and really build my wealth first. And so I worked and I put my money into buying more assets. That asset needs to be performing. And our definition of performing assets is that it needs to be generating income on a monthly basis. And so income saved up going into assets, asset creates more income, then I leverage that income to acquire my liabilities. That's where it's massively different. And so that income, when goes into liability, we gotta debt service those liabilities on a monthly basis, and so that it goes out as expenses. I understand you're probably going, what is he doing all that gesture for? I want to give you a quick virtual visual mind map of a financial statement. Typically speaking, there are four different areas. The first one is income, the second one is expenses, and then you have asset and liabilities. And so in the video, you're going to see how the mindset plays out, as I mentioned, so that you can see the logic and the flow of it. So money comes in, it goes directly and directed into acquiring assets. Once again, the way we define asset is that they got to be performing. And by performing, we mean that it's got to be spitting out cash flow or making a profit on a monthly basis. And so that we use that income generated by our assets, by our investments, to cover the expenses to buy whatever it is that you want to buy. And so really, it's a big focus shift. It's shifting from just covering everything that we want and the basic expenses to let's still do that. However, let's wait a little bit longer and make sure that our money is making more money for us through just a little bit of rerouting and detouring. And I know it sounds really simple in theory, and that's what we always focus on is the difference between simple versus easy. It's all very simple to follow, and it all makes sense intellectually and mentally. However, it is the discipline, the guidance, and the application of it all that really is the challenging part. And that's where, once again, the guidance, the coaching, the training, and having a community of people supporting you, being on the same journey really come into play here. And so last but not least, once again, to wrap it up, focus is on building a cycle where assets are funding the entire lifestyle. So in Trust Your Talent, we always say that our goal is to help you create financial independence in 2 to 5 years once you get started. Right now, after 5+ year of being around and having alumni and successful students now, we can say that the average students do declare financial freedom in 2 years. That's our track record. You can talk to whoever it is that you want in the community. If that's something that you want to do, I, at this point, would strongly encourage, if you haven't already, get in contact with a strategy coach to start mapping out what it is that you got to do to create your path to financial freedom or financial independence. And so with that said, this is the end of this module, and I would like you, as usual, to share with the group what is your one key takeaway from this particular module? And more importantly, what is the one action that you will take now? I know I just suggested one. If that's the one you want to take, go right ahead. And bonus question is that if you could eliminate a liability right now, what would it be and how will you do it? So do your work. If you follow every single module and do some of the recommended and just answer questions, because sometimes that's where the learnings are, that's where the ahas are. And it may seem very simple, and yet sometimes simple questions are also quality questions. And I like to say, because I learned this from one of my mentors in my journey so far, she always said the quality of the answer depends on the quality of the question. So if you ask good quality questions, you're going to get good quality answers. And with that said, isn't that what we're looking for? Good quality answers about life, about money. Once we can figure that out, then we can formulate a plan together with you and for you. So with that said, thank you once again. I will see you at the next module.